includes the leased premises. So
Well, yeah, I know a little
I
bit more
can't
about
tell
it.
you
We're on.
how cautious you should be with that.
Okay, we are on. And this is a work session. It's March the 11th. And we are, all the council members are here. We're going to talk about the town council draft goal statement. And then we have a little event on Thursday night. We're going to figure out who's going to pass out hot chocolate and cookies and whatever. How are we going to do
They're
this?
not my cookies, so people will be disappointed.
I got a
Well,
proposition
now
for
you just disclaimed.
If you told people they were my cookies, people would come just for that.
Okay, then we,
Just say.
okay, Alyssa's Cookies, that's your new business.
That's when you need to advertise them.
I don't have a commercial kitchen. I don't want to get myself in trouble on public TV.
Then we're going into how we want to process the joint meetings with our volunteer boards. Okay, having said that, do we want to kick off? Let's kick off right from the top, which is the goal statements.
So in January of this year, this board met in this room, actually, to kind of review the goal statement and work on one going forward. As the council's aware that we use this goal statement when we prepare budgets, when we set work plans, when we do all our heavy lifting. And so this is an important document for us as staff, and it's a great way for you as a council to give us a lot of clear direction on issues that are important. So this is the first, we took a bunch of notes at the last meeting, and this is the first rough draft. Hopefully it's a little tighter than a rough draft, but first draft, let's call it, for you guys to review, to see if we hit all the items, if we missed anything, if it was worded correctly. One thing that we pointed out in this draft statement before you is this was unique in that before, this is the first time in 40 years that the council hasn't had any turnover in it. And so before, we'd kind of start over and say, hey, one new person kind of creates a new council, let's start from the beginning. This council got to review the old statement, and we modified it, so this looks really similar, keeping that momentum going in the same direction. There were some tweaks, of course, and hopefully they're reflected in here appropriately. But with any luck, we can go through this tonight, get some general consensus and buy-off from you all, and then we could formally adopt it in an upcoming meeting.
Do we just want to start from the top and do paragraph?
Yeah, however you
perhaps?
guys want to, sure, I can.
Don't you think?
Sure.
Yeah.
You want me to kind of go through it, or you want to? I mean,
Well, I think it's well-written. So I think it would be great if perhaps if people have comments on the first two paragraphs.
so this first paragraph's kind of
So
the.
starting with the strategic initiatives.
Yeah, well, this thing, the goal statement.
The first two written paragraphs, that first one is just kind of a history, what I just went through verbally.
Right.
That second one's almost verbatim from what you adopted 2 years ago. I think I changed some tenses and maybe a sentence or two here and there. I did put, there was a goal that the council had before about, let me see if I can put my finger on it. It talks about town staff and government, and that was like a written out goal. It didn't really fit in the new sets of goals, so I put it in here. Let me see. Hold on one second.
Third line, second paragraph.
Yeah, effective town council, or effective professional town staff who led and uphold the town values. That was kind of a standalone goal before. I inserted it in this paragraph, but that's probably the biggest change. Not gigantic in any means, but it went from a standalone paragraph to incorporate it into this.
So, so when we make a comment to be a nimble steward of our I'm on the second paragraph, first sentence, and I'm going, okay, what is a nimble steward versus a non-nimble, or could we just put a steward?
And I've slept since then, but I think as you guys were trying to be flexible and on top of it, and say, hey, we're willing to try new things and see new stuff is kind of that's how I took it. But it's, again, this is your goal statement, not mine, so it's,
That was just, like, I was trying to figure out, what do we really mean by that?
the opposite of stodgy.
Flexible and,
Yeah.
yeah,
The opposite of stodgy is how I took
okay.
it.
Well, maybe we use non-stodgy.
Yeah.
We don't wear socks.
Have you ever heard it called Snowmass?
Oh, Carolyn,
Okay, this is the antithesis of
Okay.
Snowmass. This is,
Fastness.
nimble.
We know where that comes from.
Well, it's historical.
Well, it's
and
historical. It's
probably
frequently said in the paper
one of
anymore.
those idiosyncrasies which is acquired by the behavior. And we have been slow. I mean, you look back at the development moratoriums of the past century and into this century, and it's an earned name. And that's what Clint is trying to reduce your desires to one word.
I'm fine, I'm just, if somebody asks me, that's,
Sure.
okay.
I
District,
had a question. Well, I had a few things in the first paragraph.
Okay, then go for it.
First of all, in the first line, are you like asking us if it should be the or a, or are you leaving it the or a?
you mean in the goal?
We're on page 2 now.
What?
Yeah.
Did I
You-
miss the page?
You're
Yes, you
jumping on
did.
affordable
Oh,
housing?
I'm sorry.
Yeah. To answer your question, yes, I'm asking you,
We
because you
can go
debated
back.
that, and there wasn't a,
Why?
We're done with page one now. You started
Well,
on two.
no, if there's still stuff on page 1, sorry. I didn't realize, I wasn't looking at the page numbers when I was done.
you guys tell me what you want to talk about, I'm here.
Okay, when we come down in the last, the second paragraph, the very last line, the council still aims to stay true to the values of the village. So I'm looking through this document to try to find what are the values of this village.
And in my mind, that's the thriving, charming, fun, resilient, safe, emotionally connected community.
Okay, then maybe we want changes over time. The council wants to ensure we remain true to our values of, we somehow need to, either we hang them on a wall or we put them in a document, but if someone asks me what the values of this community,
What if we were to say values of the community, values of the village above?
Above.
Listed above,
Stated above.
stated above, listed above.
well, I don't know where,
Well, it's all
That's-
from the comp plan. I mean, the comp plan is our values.
So these strategic initiatives are cut and paste out of the comp plan.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
But that family-friendly focused, that list I just read off,
In the middle of that paragraph.
is what you guys all came up with 2 years ago.
uphold the town values. Okay, I see it up here in the first sentence of the second paragraph. I got it. The town's values, and then the council will recognize that the town. Okay, it was just not real apparent to me what the values were, if I had to call it out. I'm not thinking about me, I'm thinking about the community.
Sure. And that's why I think we should be reading it that way.
So maybe we should just put the values under strategic initiatives, so we call them out.
Well, you mean just have another bunch of bullets
Just another
called
bullet.
values?
Yeah, just a bullet with values and just like list it, because
Maintain-
those are,
You could do maintain or preserve town values of.
yeah. I mean, because those are basically the words we
Yeah.
threw out to describe Snowmass. So I think those are what we kind of threw out as our values.
So that's the fun, community-focused, family-friendly village.
Yep.
And thriving, charming, fun, resilient, safe, and emotionally connected.
I think all of those are perfect. What happened to your word funky?
You guys yanked that. I use funky all the time. I use it in a heartbeat, but I thought you guys took that out.
You don't say groovy a lot, do you?
I don't.
Just check.
So is it okay to leave the words in the paragraph and then list them out kind of
Sure.
independently below?
Yep. Because that's what we need to underscore. Under strategic initiatives, are we ready to go down there? Jane?
Yeah.
Even though sustainability and resiliency in our second bullet, after listening to John Melly last week, one of my thoughts immediately ran to safe, the wildfire mitigation and continue to enhance wildfire mitigation or let's see. I didn't come up with the words yet, but I want to have some way that we continue to put an emphasis on safety and emergency planning and preserve the natural nature of, I don't know, but we gotta do something with
Well, it says
modifier.
it in the first sentence. You could just elaborate. Preserve and protect our open space and our environment. It's right here. Like this?
It really does there.
Well, you never want the mic in your face.
So
I thought that you were using
that last goal, and I'm jumped to page 3, the continued commitment to resiliency, those strategic initiatives are cut and paste out of the comp plan.
Okay.
If we want to, and so we tried to come up with a way to differentiate between what was adopted by the council, that's the strategic initiatives, and then that next section we call town council areas of concentration. Most of them fit somewhat in those initiatives. Would that continued commitment to resiliency, if we threw or added more language about wildfire mitigation and safety, and I think that was our effort, was to try to put it in there. But we can strengthen that up.
Floods and, I mean, all of those little things we're gonna be tackling with this spring and summer.
But, you know, in conjunction with that, what I took away from John's presentation was a lack of public understanding or a public willingness to participate in mitigation, and I think that's I think that's that needs to be an important part of this resiliency commitment, you know, from the council. In other words, we have to figure out some ways to get the public more educated, more aware, and more concerned for all of us, for the community in general.
Oh, the community good.
So that, for the community good, so that there's more public participation in the opportunities to make individual situations, homes and condominium complexes, et cetera, more resilient to
But this is kind
wildfire.
of covered under that, Bob, isn't it, in the last two sentences of the...
Oh, I didn't read it again just now.
The last two sentences of the continued commitment to resiliency, basically saying that these efforts to improve resiliency will require strong leadership from the council and efforts towards community education and disaster.
Yeah. That's fine.
That's basically
works.
it,
That's fine.
right.
Okay, that works.
Thank you.
Okay.
And then since we're on that page, if I may say, the regionalism, I think the only thing listed that I would like to add would be the senior housing under, where it talks about, we're not limited to transportation and housing, recreation and public health matters. I think something along the senior,
To be more specific,
right,
yeah.
It's employee housing and senior housing.
and senior housing.
Well, and I think one of the big takeaways from Picken County, the meeting we had at Picken County's new offices, was that we really have to get HOAs involved, because having one homeowner mitigate their house for fire isn't gonna do much. You have to get the whole neighborhood involved. And so, maybe we just need to make a statement in regards, well, I guess we get into regionalism, but maybe we need to call out HOAs to make sure that they're, on board.
Well, one could go to a dark place, which I've thought of, since I have a neighbor who has not mitigated for a long time, and it's a frickin' fire hazard. And I've talked to them, and I've talked to them, and I have talked to them about mitigating. There's nothing in any one of our town ordinances that require them to mitigate.
That's true.
So,
Well, that was one of John's points.
They construct.
and that's one of Heinz's, when he donated all that money up in our hood.
Yeah,
He went property to property to property himself and looked at all the downed trees. And he said, we'll never solve this problem until we force homeowners
So
to find them.
So basically, Marky, what we need to probably get on an agenda is to talk about what we could do to, I don't know, the HOAs are a different entity, obviously. You know, we can't control the HOAs.
You could pass a law that makes requirements of them.
Well, I mean, it's not something we
Snowmass
need,
Homeowners Association, and
right.
I just,
Because I know as our HOA down at the Country Club Homes, John Flynn, our president, we're always looking for something better, okay? And I think he's a great president, and our annual meetings once a year, that everybody's very interested in doing, whether it's the recycling or whatever, they're always looking to do something that's gonna help the community, and then a lot of these people are second homeowners,
yeah, that's exactly right.
okay?
So
So,
we use that term.
and I don't think it's gonna be a big burden on a lot of people.
Part-time.
I would say.
I don't think it's accurate, because they own property here, but second home to me is standalone, and that's where the problem really lies, because there's a greater level of independence among the single-family homes.
Yep.
And when there is the HOAs, and I think Bill's talking about HOAs, but he's talking about
House.
Ridge Run.
Yes, exactly. That's
I
where
can name the
Big
other
Road.
ones, and Tom's talking about a multifamily association, which I think it's easier there, because there's a level of privacy that is higher in a single-family home than is in a common
Yeah,
a
probably, and
common
that's why a lot of
situation.
people opt to be single-family homes, so they don't have to deal with an HOA.
Well, so they don't have to deal with an HOA, and someone can't come in and tell them what to do on their property.
I understand that, but to follow
When
up
it
on,
becomes a hazard to someone else,
When it becomes a hazard to the community, that's when it's your job to step in and
Mark, you gotta move forward, he's not hearing you at all. Thank you.
Well, I think that's what we're,
just to consider.
yeah, no, but I think what we are, I think what we're saying is there is a hazard to the community, and that we, or at least the town council and the fire marshal feel
we recognize it.
there's a hazard to the community, a potential hazard to the community. We recognize it, and, we want to look at different options
Well,
to get more,
I think you, as a council, accepted the fire marshal's invitation to look at a fire
Yeah,
protection
yeah.
code.
absolutely.
And these are things that would be in it. Where do you want to say that in how strongly do you want to say that in your goals? I mean, you're kind of, you've already acknowledged that goal as far as I'm concerned after the presentation.
Yeah.
And the commitment to move forward on a fire protection.
Well, we
code.
kind of we have it in here,
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's here.
enough to know that,
What I think you're dealing with now is, do we want to use a carrot or a stick?
yeah.
I don't think you even need to decide that today. I mean,
Right.
you guys have said, hey, staff, this is important, get going.
Yeah.
And that's what you've got here.
Okay,
Okay. So now, are we going back to page 1 or 2, or,
well, let's just,
we hit page 3.
okay.
We hit page 1.
With page 1, we're done. Anyone on page 2?
Yes.
Okay,
Hold on.
So I've got the same question that, that Alyssa raised on the first line of page 2 under affordable housing,
yeah.
as to the, or, a or the. And I think that's, since Clint,
You guys
you
did-
anticipated an answer for
You
one
guys
or the
debated that,
other.
if you remember, when we were doing that goal setting, we talked about it, and we wrote down the, and then there was some discussion whether it was the, and so on our notes, we specifically erased the and kind of put a question mark to it. So that's really one of those things that there was not most everything else, there was a strong level of consensus from y'all. That one, I didn't get it, if there was one. I didn't know which way to go. So it was staff's recommendation of the, but there wasn't a whole lot of excitement about that, and so really I just need some direction from you all if it's
I'll tell you
or a.
what disturbs, it's not that nothing disturbs me, but we're really making progress on employee housing. We have done nothing at all on senior housing for 4 years I've sat in this seat. To me, if you want to weight them, we continue to make progress on our employee housing and look for options, but I feel we need to really commit ourselves to really exploring senior housing as well. And I can help with that approach, but it's a lot of lip service, and no one Picken County doesn't do anything, and Aspen doesn't do anything, and,
But I don't think we've really determined the need.
no, we haven't. We haven't even, we even haven't, do we have a problem?
No, it comes back to me, it comes back to the discussions we've had about trying to encourage people or support people who want to downsize from housing that they're in now, you know, workforce housing that they're in now. And we haven't really gotten anywhere with that either.
We haven't
So,
got,
and I think those things, I think that helps to give a picture of whatever the need would be, high, low, or non-existent, of senior housing.
I think we need to look at the entire community and not just affordable housing. And those are the individuals that might have, they more than likely would not be on a Medicaid, paying for their room and board in a senior housing project, but they would have a private pay opportunity. I mean, we all know a lot of the seniors within our community that live in single-family homes,
That's true.
and they themselves feel stuck. People, even over in Aspen, feel stuck.
So how do we, I mean, really, this is a regionalization.
It's a regionalization, and it's really kind of a summit on senior housing with our colleagues.
When we talked about this at our retreat, or, you know, whatever, this meeting wasn't here, one of the goals that was talked about, or outcomes that was talked about, was by creating senior housing, that wasn't the end goal, but it was providing a space for someone to move to that would then open up larger spaces that would create that churn and opportunities for people to move around and be more efficient with the larger houses. That was part of the discussion, at least.
Also, part of that discussion was the properties available showed more down valley, okay? And now trying to get people who have lived in the community for so long to move down valley is going to be a problem.
Well, I'd move down valley in a heartbeat when I get old, because from 9,000 down to 7, I'll tell you, property that I think we should look at it, but
I know you brought it up, the property down there by Emma, and,
Yeah.
And it's, you know, something that maybe we need to still explore, okay?
I think there's other options too, because there's a piece of property right almost adjacent across the street down behind the library. And it's had a notice posted on the fence now for over a year, and there was to be senior housing to go in there, and that has fallen through. That's like 9 acres.
Behind the library.
At Basalt.
Oh,
Basalt.
Basalt, excuse me, I'm thinking.
Yeah, you look to the right, there's horse farm, and there's a fence, I mean,
Oh, sure.
you probably know where I'm
Yeah, I
talking
know
about, you go up and down all the time. But there's property, but you don't, and Bill's exactly right, we don't even know if there's a need. We know there's
So-
a need, but we can't size a need, and you can't do
Marty,
anything till you size it.
So I think you kind of made a comment which sort of maybe gives this a kickoff or a focus, and that is to have a senior housing retreat, all right, or
Summit or whatever.
a forum,
Right.
or a forum, that brings together the municipalities and the housing and the workforce housing organizations certainly in the Upper Valley, but perhaps even in, the mid to Upper Valley, I think.
Right, the mid to the
Because
upper valley.
Glenwood Springs sort of has their own stuff going on. They've got a couple of senior housing unit.
They do not take Medicaid.
Okay. Well, you said this is probably not a Medicaid situation.
You'll probably have 25% to 50% Medicaid and 50% private pay.
Okay.
That's way back when Chris Marsh did that. You remember this housing? You remember Chris Marsh, and they bought that property down in Basalt, and the medical foundation fell through. We can dust all of that work off.
But,
There's tons of information on need and payer source.
but I guess where I'm going is if we kind of have some rough definition or talking points,
Yeah.
then we should direct staff to contact some other municipalities and organizations and float the idea and see what comes back and see if we can get something going.
I'm all over it. Yep,
Okay,
let's do that. I
We
can help you.
We can start that for sure, and just to, I mean, for 40-plus years, our organization's emphasis on housing has been workforce. This would be a shift, and I'm not just identifying, it's a shift, and that's, as long as you
well,
guys are
but it
good with
all helps to, open up the market. It all helps to open up the housing market.
Because exactly what's happening is that this is, now you have the people, let's just say, in your neighborhood that have reached the age where their kids are now out of the house. I mean, this is the first time this is happening. I mean, these things haven't been around for that long in the grand scheme of things. And so now you're looking at people that have younger families and need space and don't, can't be in a one-bedroom when they have, or two-bedroom when they have 4 kids or whatever it is. And so in order to create that space, you have to give people options.
And that's
I
that-
mean,
that's
they
that
may
shift.
not take on the options. They
Right.
may be like, well, I just really want to stay in my house until I die. Can't make someone move, but you can give them the options.
Right. And that's what you guys talked about last time, and that was, I guess, the outcome was to kind of make that sure and those options available.
Right.
And that was one way to make that happen, the senior housing.
Just include our single-family homeowners, so individuals that are not employees, because I'll tell you, there are no options. Except you go to Glenwood Springs and,
But that free market home is a little different than what
Right.
Alyssa's talking about, because that free market home's gonna stay free market, and it's not gonna,
it'll stay free market,
Yeah,
yeah,
it'll stay free market.
and they, unless they wanna gift it to the town.
I'll hold my breath.
Gift it to the town.
Well, back
Mayor
to,
of Snowmass, encouraging homeowners to
not?
gift their multi-million-dollar homes to the town.
She said please.
Please.
Make the adjoining parking lot.
It'd be nice. It's the
but
least
I-
they could do.
Got some pretty nice tax benefits.
I guess I want to make another point, along with Marky. We have made a lot of progress in creating additional workforce housing units. I really would like to see us get going on updating the housing regulations. I know last year was a difficult year, and we had reason to postpone that, but I would like to get that
Done.
off the back burner.
I mean, it's in here and that's being worked on.
Okay.
I thought Betsy was working on those.
She is, she said she
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, we need to include Betsy on this whole senior housing. She's
Yes,
very
absolutely.
adamant about approaching. I mean, she's really solid. We hired a good person.
Clint, I don't know, this just occurred to me today as I was leaving the Snowmass Club, but are the Snowmass Commons, are they, even though they're privately owned, but are they considered an inclusion in the workforce housing in Snowmass?
When we did our analysis,
When we do the analysis? Okay.
yeah, we broke the analysis down on what we control and what we don't control. There's a whole slew of units that are available that we don't control, that are in that math.
Okay,
But are still restricted.
right.
Brings up another, way back when we approved the commons, John, were those all SKICO employees?
No?
So, okay, anyone, if, meet the qualifications?
Yep.
Okay, got it. I couldn't remember all the detail.
In this housing one, in the last
Yeah.
line, I think we should change the last line. First of all, I think it's weird to say open to solutions, and I don't like the word deliberately. And I feel like based on what we just said, that we need to say, we're willing to work collaboratively with both the community and, regionally. I mean, this is not the exact wording, but
Regional partners.
Yeah, with regional partners to, and diligently commit the time, the money, and political will to implement a successful strategy. Because just to say we're open to solutions, what does that mean? What we're really trying to say is we're willing to work collaboratively with communities.
solutions.
Yeah.
Yeah, within the
just sounded
community and
weird.
within the region.
I just think that last, and deliberately, I don't like that word. I feel like it could be like diligently or something, but deliberately is weird to me in that sentence.
Okay, anybody got a second paragraph?
No, but can I just go
Okay,
back
yeah,
one
go
thing?
for it.
On
Go.
that page 1 in the first sentence, there's a space between R and environment that needs to come out. Do you see it? It's an extra space.
Following the re-election of the mayor.
No,
What?
preserve and protect open
Preserve and
space.
protect open spaces and our environment. I just noticed it. There's an extra space.
Oh, in the first strategic initiative plan.
Yeah, sorry.
So back, yes, I can, that's just a cut and paste issue. I can fix that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Under the affordable housing, you guys did debate the or a priority. Don't know if you want to settle on one or.
I
have us-
think it's A, because
A.
you can have multiple top priorities. Why not?
This is, you look to your left and right, sir. This is not one, our recommendation was.
You got 10 fingers, you only got 7, so get with the program, it's A. Everything's, to me, is very important.
Yeah, I would say, I think we've shown that it is our top priority. I mean, by the two projects that are, on the table right now. So maybe 4 years ago it was but now I think we're making that progress, so I'm fine with A.
And I as well, I'm fine with A.
I would have said A.
Did we answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. How about community engagement?
That last sentence, I don't know if that's what we wanted it to be. I just think we need to go back and look at that.
The very last sentence, yeah.
Yeah,
I think it needs some work on it.
yeah.
What is it we're trying to get done then? That's, I mean, we're
Well,
gonna
it
talk about
just
that all.
says specific ideas for improvement, including streaming all boards and commissions meetings, making necessary legal changes. Is that what we decided we were gonna do?
Well, that's why I'm asking. So I don't know that. That's,
Well, no, that's why I highlighted it,
Well,
because
this is
I'm
why-
not sure that that's what we decided.
well,
I don't
this
know
is
if we decided to have all of them with Granicus.
Basically, isn't that what we plan on doing in regards to having we haven't decided yet whether they're gonna be work session meetings or regular council meetings with the different boards? Isn't that sentence basically saying that?
No, but this
No.
is
No,
saying
this
that you're
is saying
putting,
streaming.
Streaming.
This is streaming board commission
Oh, okay,
meetings.
the streaming of
that
the-
you're streaming and that you're putting a member of us on each one of these things. And I feel like our discussion last time was that maybe in some situations, that's not a good idea.
So we can say may include, I mean, this is stuff that if we need to
Could
start
happen.
exploring it, we need to start putting it. If it's not important and you don't want to, then we can strike it and it won't get any progress made. And that's why we're having this discussion today, is I don't know.
I mean, as far as streaming boards and commissions, let's just break it in half for now. I would kind of use that as coming back later on to the third item on our agenda of what we're gonna talk, why we wanna have meetings with boards and commissions. I think that's a question to to have as part of that discussion with the board sitting on the other side of the table.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a
And-
very good point.
Let's all talk about how each, feels about this. And the liaison kind of falls in the same category. So, I don't know,
I think it's-
maybe if at a moment, that sentence
Fine.
shouldn't be there.
You don't think it should be there?
Well,
Or we can add the fluffy stuff, explore,
we can
may,
explore, yeah.
explore it, and maybe an option, that kind of stuff. So
Yeah,
That's
that's a
okay.
good idea. That's, at least you don't drop the thought process.
I mean, but this is a good example of where this matters, because if you said absolutely make it so, we would start doing that.
Right,
And if
right.
it's like, nope, hey, slow down a little bit, let's explore it, let's talk it through with all the affected boards, then
So Bob, we talked about some of the board meetings that we did, like, for instance, the planning board, we're not necessarily, not saying not allowed to go to attend, but we wanted to see what was going on there. And we did talk about whether or not we wanted to have them streamed, and so we could follow it at our own time, or
Yeah,
our own
yeah.
place, right?
Yeah,
They are.
they are streamed.
just Just the,
Just audio.
yeah, thank you. I was
Just
trying to
audio,
say verbal.
not video.
They're not video, but there's,
They're
you
audio.
can listen to them.
Right. So, I'm not convinced we need to strike that last sentence, that's all. Like, you know,
Well, are you comfortable with fluffy words?
Look,
Or is there
you'll
specific
explore it,
ideas?
and these may be options to look at, is kind of what the direction.
Yeah, sure, you wanna make a fluffy adjective, that's okay.
Yeah, and we may end up doing, you know, streaming on some and not on others, and liaison on some and not on others, and, you know, this kind of gives us the flexibility to work with the board and commission.
Yeah, I really liked your idea. This is something we ought to ask them.
Right.
Yep.
So just specific ideas for improvement to include streaming boards and commissions, not like all boards and
That's,
commissions.
or may include streaming,
Yeah,
and I was gonna add something, the council will explore ideas such as, or that may include, or, I don't know, figure out something.
okay.
Yeah, you figure out something there. You got the drill. Next item is community building.
I don't have any notes on community building.
I didn't either.
Neither did I.
Well, let's go to safety and
The only thing I was gonna point out, that when it talks about the community places need to be conveniently connected, such that the flow between them, in my mind, that's part of that Skittles discussion. That's the flow between the mall and Base Village. I don't know if you guys think that way the same, but that's part of that connectivity that was in my mind when it was getting typed. If that's wrong, I mean, I don't know that it matters that much, but I just wanted to point that out.
It's fine with me. What you got? Okay, I don't think there's any comments on safety.
I have comments.
Okay, go for it.
Sorry.
That's,
Okay, my first comment is, I feel like if you look at the strategic initiatives, and one of the things it's talking about is managing parking and transit and encouraging efficient, effective, sustainable mobility choices. And unless I'm missing it, it doesn't really talk about that. It only says improvements for pedestrians, mobility issues, stuff like that, in relationship, it looks like it's in relationship to Owl Creek and Brush Creek. But, I mean, that's how I read it. And we're not specifically talking about transit and about parking. I mean, I will tell you that I don't know if anyone's ever been down to Two Creeks recently, especially on the weekends.
me?
But it is a you-know-what show. I've never seen a situation like that. It seems like there's too many cars parked crazily. People really can't get in and out that well. It's very stressful to park all these cars, and it's creating a problem, and it's also creating a bad taste in people's mouths about coming to Snowmass and getting here and finding there's nowhere to park, and they have to go back to Intercept or back to Aspen and take the bus. And this is, to me, this section on safety and connectivity, it doesn't involve that whole parking transit piece.
Well, maybe what we ought to do is take a look. Yesterday, there was no one at Two Creeks
Right,
parking.
I'm talking about,
Yeah.
it was
And
really
Saturday?
Saturdays.
Oh, yes, there was. I was at Two Creeks yesterday.
So was I.
It was, in the afternoon, it was packed.
Oh, I didn't get, well, I went at 10.
People,
I was
because
there
of
at
the time
9:30 in the morning,
change.
then left about 2.
Yeah.
But the other thing, though, is Brush Creek Road, the last 4 weeks on a Saturday, just trying to come, it's bumper to bumper on Brush Creek. And then, you know, our parking lots are filled, everything was filled by,
They're filled 8:30, 9 o'clock in
Yeah.
the morning.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, twice in the past month, I have been closed out of Two Creeks parking on a Saturday. And I've
is
had
that
to,
ABSC?
with that AVHC.
AVS.
AVAC, and have had to do
Yes.
whatever the damn thing is. The kids program.
No, but it's true, and it's crazy.
And this week, it was the most ridiculous, because at 9:15, the traffic was backed up from the parking lot all the way to Owl Creek Road. The police were called because they had to direct traffic. Buses couldn't get in or out. It was the worst I've ever experienced, and I'm right there with Alyssa.
And I hear it from the people. I mean,
sure you
I
do.
pulled in
Of course you
to
do.
drop off my kids to meet Ben, and they were like, and the town council, I mean, like every time. That's what I hear.
And the hard one for that one is, we don't own that one. We
I
own
get it.
1 through 13 and the rodeo, and we
I
can
get
affect
it, but it's
those.
still our problem. It's still, you don't want people to not come here and have a dislike of Snowmass because of this issue. So it is our problem in some ways,
Well-
even though we don't
Well,
control the
again-
law.
We had the sign out on 82,
That's where I was gonna go.
yes, and that's in the works. We all know
Right.
that.
That's right.
But,
And
you know,
they
that-
send a
That
picture
sign
of it.
helps people coming up from down valley.
It doesn't
But
help the
when
people that are coming in from
Aspen,
Denver.
though,
Right.
Marky, people coming from Aspen are not gonna see that sign. Now, I
But-
know I got a Picken County alert
Right,
on
but
Saturday morning.
visitors aren't on Picken
Probably at
County.
9 or 9:10, that parking is full in Snowmass.
Well, you know,
Yeah, I got one.
honestly, Alyssa, visitors who are, staying in condos and visitors, not
Yeah,
part-time owners,
right.
but visitors, shouldn't be driving. They should be taking the bus,
Right.
right? They should, because all these hotels and condominium complexes and places that visitors stay are on the bus lines.
Yeah.
So they really,
I agree.
they really should be taking the bus.
They should, but the problem is people don't. They're like, oh, it takes too long to take the bus, and oh, this and that. I mean, something is amiss somewhere.
Well, this is a great problem to have this year.
It is.
We
It
didn't
is
have
a
it
great
last
problem.
year.
But the bottom line is, I feel like it is missing from that paragraph.
Paragraph.
And I think that it's in the strategic initiatives, and all the things that are in strategic initiatives come up somewhere in these next 2 pages. But I felt like that was a miss. Also, there should be no comma between Sinclair and Faraway.
Yeah.
Sorry. But I do like that, it is talking about this modeling of the town park, because I do feel like that's been highly successful, and it's really improved that crossing, and people are really missing the blue tree.
The only thing, I gotta say, the
I
only
haven't
thing
heard
I'm
any comments on
concerned
the blue
about
tree.
in that sentence
Yeah.
is that it implies a separator down the middle of the road.
Yep.
What does?
That sentence, saying that the town park crossing should be a model for crossings at Sinclair and Faraway, implies that there should be a divider, a median, down the middle of the road.
Right.
And I'm,
Oh, I didn't look at it that way.
well, I know.
But I
Only because I'm more sensitive, only because it's a sensitive issue to
It's a
me,
very good and valid point.
and I'm more sensitive about it.
Right.
And when I read it, that's what I thought about. In addition to the lighting and the crosswalks and everything else, that's what I thought. So I like, the first part of that sentence for me is fine, but the second part is not.
So you would,
Unless we word it in some other way.
Should
so
be
I'd make a
basis.
period and make a separate sentence.
Would that make it easier? If just instead of a model, a basis for, doesn't work, never mind, take that back.
No, just the town park crossing is a successful design. Other models to include town park will be considered for St. Clair and Faraway. You're gonna look at other design options.
Yeah, we will. I mean, this is from you guys, and that was the language, it's like, hey, we wanted to make sure that's, the light, it was the lighting, it was the rapid flash beacons, it was the paint on the street that, I think that you guys got excited about.
Yeah, paint on
That's
the
where this
street,
language
but-
comes from.
And every time we see some of her designs always have this median down the middle.
Well, and part of that is because that's also, take Faraway and Brush. That is, it's wider than Town Park on Brush. And
So let me just, so Bob, what's your reservation about islands in the road?
I think it's not necessary. I don't think, at least in Faraway, it's not, in my opinion, is not necessary. I go there, I'm in and out of there every day, and I watch people get off the bus, I watch people cross the street. In my opinion, it's not necessary. And to me,
But is it-
and
but
to
are-
me, it changes the character, it substantially changes the character of that part of Rush Creek. What it does to me is it moves the urban-ish look of higher-rise buildings that start even at the Snowmass Center and move uphill. It moves it down to Faraway, and I don't want to see that.
Okay. So when I think about medians, when the roundabout was going in, I was very critical of the median that kind of protects the downhill, the turning traffic going downhill. You know, so you can come out of
Wood
the
Road,
Wood Road and turn downhill. And I see people, they don't even look anymore because that median is there and that traffic comes together in a way that's comfortable for people. And it's because that median is there. And I agree, I thought that would add to the urbanization, but I think the practical reality is that it really does make that intersection much safer.
but that's the area, that's in the area in town that's already, if you will, urbanized.
Right, but my point being, it makes it safer. And I think that Faraway Road, because it's such a wide section, I think our focus should still be on safety. I'm less concerned about the urbanization of that intersection.
Well,
And
I'm very concerned about the urbanization of the entire Brush Creek Road. So,
How about this? What about this language? Do you like this? If you say, the town park crossing has proven to be a successful design and provides an excellent basis for potential discussions regarding improvements at Sinclair and Faraway.
I like what the mayor presented, which was two sentences, and the second saying, town park crossing as well as other models will be used, you know,
In the design of
in the
Sinclair.
design of Sinclair and Faraway roads.
Why don't you just not say anything then?
That's fine with me too.
Or you could say, the town park pedestrian crossing is a successful design and controlled crossings at Sinclair and Faraway should be pursued.
Because that doesn't speak to median, it just
Yeah.
could be a blue
Okay.
light.
It's just, that's our goal.
Keep it simple.
This one worked down there, but we think these two places need controlled
A
crossing.
control
That's a good point, okay.
crossing, that's fine.
Everybody fine?
Fine.
so do we want to have a separate topic for transportation and parking, or do we want to try and fit it into safety and connectivity?
It's a whole different, to me, it's almost different, because Alyssa raises a very valid point right now on this whole issue of transportation and traffic and buses and,
I agree. I think it should be another strategic goal.
Well, it is one on its own.
Well, it should be an area of concentration, I
Yeah.
guess.
Right.
we could suggest people not purchase the Icon Pass. Oops,
so,
Oh, boy.
what you were just saying, Bill,
I suggest.
parking and transit would be a standalone area of concentration?
It's like Vail.
Right.
And what is it, that, just to do more, do less, or?
Well, I think it's our ability to communicate where parking is, when it's available, transportation opportunities. Because it's just gonna become a bigger thing. and that we're gonna have to start utilizing the intercept lot a lot more.
And to that end, when we have our EOTC meeting, which is coming up in 2 weeks or whatever it is, we've got to really encourage getting restrooms and facilities down and intercept to make it far more amenable.
Yep, I agree.
I feel like maybe that whole safety and connectivity paragraph really concentrates on safety. The last sentence is really the only part that talks about connectivity. Maybe you put connectivity and transit together as one, because those are kind of very similar. How people get around involves transit.
You could do that.
So maybe you do that. I don't know. That would just be a suggestion.
I think it makes sense to have safety have its own topic, because it's, I mean, the pedestrian walkways that we've been talking about, individual mobility, transit users, those are all related to safety.
Well, if we're gonna expand safety and think about kind of our public areas, we need to talk about trail safety. We heard Bill Bueno last week talk about bike riders and hikers.
We did?
Well, we
Oh,
have
that was at the, oh, you weren't there. P-trap.
Where was I?
Yeah, P-trap.
I was gonna say the same thing, I'm trying to, having a senior,
Sorry, I've been
senior
into-
moment,
I was
speaking of
like, my
senior
memory's
housing.
not that bad.
Well, we have it in here, safety improvements also include efforts to create respectful and safe utilization of our multi-use trail system.
Yeah, that's in there. Yeah, they were complaining about Terminator. It's way over yonder, it comes down into the pines.
It does.
You mean the cross-country ski trail?
No, it's a hiking and biking trail.
You mean
It comes down.
anaerobic?
I never heard of something called
Oh, it's not
Terminator.
that, it's anaerobic.
Anaerobic, oh.
I was like, I'm on those trails all the time. I never heard of Terminator.
So you
Oh,
got
it's
two,
really
you got
good.
2 strikes right now, so I think it's, you know, you wanna call a lifeline, you're welcome to.
Well, that is a Terminator trail with a bike's coming at you.
Anaerobic nightmare.
Okay.
Okay, you wanna work on a redraft and,
Yeah, well, should we bring it back to the council meeting and see how close we can get it at a council meeting? And
you mean for next Monday?
I'm not gonna promise. I mean, we'll see.
Okay.
Actually, I don't know what's on next Monday's agenda.
Pretty full.
So
It's,
the
I was gonna
problem-
say,
Marijuana, smoking.
April 1.
it's all about weed and tobacco. Sorry.
Okay.
April 1 only has 3 attendees.
Well, and if we can get it close, then we can get it adopted maybe in the next one after that.
Maybe April 15th.
Okay, were there any comments on the town council goal-setting meeting of 2019, page 1 or 2, the bullets? I don't think there was.
Yeah, those are just our notes
Yeah.
from, we basically just
Yeah.
took them off what we wrote on the white papers around. And
Okay, our next item is the town council après.
Yay, party, party, party. So basically, we just wanted to go over the information. Travis is on vacation, so he asked me to cover this for him. But we have, as you saw in here, the flyers that have been passed out and hung up all over. So you're scheduled to be there from 3 to 6 in the collective. There's going to be live music. There's going to be food. The food will be mac and cheese, some salad, hot chocolate, and from the Sweet Colorado, we'll have donut holes and squares, and there's going to be a bar for Cash Bar. I guess basically, I know Travis and I will both be there to help you. But I am not sure exactly what you guys are doing during that, or if you're just visiting and we're serving.
Yeah, I was gonna ask,
Well, last time
You
we
should have a dunk tank and people can take shots.
How about if we serve drinks?
Hot
That'd be
chocolate.
good.
I mean, this is set up almost identical to the ice cream that you guys
Yeah,
did at the
I
Thursday
mean,
concert.
last time we like
Sometimes,
had the ice cream on trays and we went around and talked to people and
So
gave
we'll
it
be
to
serving it
people
and you'll
and-
be passing it out.
Yeah,
sometimes
we
you'll get
pass that
cornered,
out.
sometimes you won't. I mean, it's just there. We're
I
trying to.
think there's some people that think there's gonna be some town uptight.
With it right now. I called today about it too, and I've made phone calls, I've sent emails
Good,
in the last
good.
6 months. And any rate, we'll discuss that at another point, but Rhonda, the elected officials ski day, I know, meeting at the gondola at 10:30.
That's on March 8th.
Oh, that's not the same
Isn't
day?
that March
They
14th?
said it was
March
the same
14th.
day.
I've got, well, that's what Barb gave me this morning.
It's March 14th.
March
So
14th
March
as well.
14th, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's,
So-
again, that's Eagle County. It's just by happenstance that they happen to be doing it here on the same day you guys are doing it. And so,
They're
You're-
just looking for some free food at our function.
well, and they're doing their own thing all day long, and they called us and said they invited us.
The commissioners plan to stop for lunch at around 12:30 at Base Camp Bar and Grill. No RSVPs are needed. Just show up
But this is their event
Their
that you're
event.
invited to.
to ski with them.
They got asked to do, I guess they do a ski event in Vail,
They do.
and they got asked, and so.
They have matching bandanas.
Yeah, they have, no, they have
Oh.
I'm
ski
just
suits.
kidding. That's what all the
They're all
ski
one
clubs
piece
have.
Bogner.
They have matching jackets.
They like tie to their poles, like flapping in the
Are they
wind.
yellow?
Guys are.
CDOT colors.
Fluorescent pink.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I was planning on
I was
on
planning
it.
too, so it'll be a good day
Okay.
for us. I mean, at least,
Okay.
I don't wanna
Always
go
tape
all
one of your
day
business
and
cards on
go
your
jump
No,
into
no, I'm not gonna
collecting.
do that either.
I think
We
I'll
have to
go for a
notice it
couple
if we're
hours
gonna
and
give us a
then go
show.
home and then come
Yes.
back to the
I
collect.
may go ski
will
with
notice
you
it no
guys
matter what.
versus with
I'm
all
not
my
coming.
guests.
Yeah,
I can tell you that.
Yeah,
you know,
you can call it
I
a,
was 17.
you got 17 guests? Hey,
They're in two places, my
Not quite
house
the
and.
ski thing. And I'm coming to the opera, but I am gonna be probably a little bit late. It's happening.
We'll
But,
save you all the donuts to serve, so you can't have a donut until Lisa gets here.
Travis
Great.
did want us to know that the participating restaurants have done a great job and gave us a very good deal.
Price.
And we should have food for approximately 100 people, so.
How many?
100 people?
at the collective.
That's a lot of donuts.
Don,
Macaroni and cheese, too.
you all have Facebook. Have you been responding that, I know, Bill, that you're going?
What?
Don Blasberg's, it's on Facebook about the event, and she might have also a good number as well.
Good
What-
number
What
of,
event?
Good
I'm
number
sorry.
for Après.
of how many people?
Yes, because she has it all over Facebook.
Right, but I don't think we asked for, I mean, that'd be just people say they're interested. You mean that number?
It says interested or going. She's got a pretty large count.
Okay.
What is she doing?
She runs a collective. So she sent out an invitation,
I-
said we're all, you need to be a friend
I've
of the
shared it so many
collective.
times. on
It's
so-
who we,
I must be a friend of a collective, or I tried to be, but
But this whole event's posted. on
Maybe they
Facebook.
defriended you.
they're our partner. They're the ones who are doing the band. Travis is working with them, so they're promoting.
Just
Yeah,
remember,
and Dawn is the one that got the band for us, so he just wanted to make sure that you guys knew that everybody down there was being really cooperative and
Good.
to thank them.
So if it starts at 3, what time do you want us there?
2:55.
2:55? We shall be there.
and don't forget, the hosts eat last.
What?
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 I'm not eating. I don't eat any of that.
Should we have comment cards or something? I felt like when we were handing out the ice cream, people were like, all right, ice cream. And I was like, all right, what do you got for us? And they're like, oh, I'll think about it.
We can.
Yeah, that would be a good idea.
You guys want name tags?
Sure.
Yeah.
Don't we have name badges? Years ago, I got a
Only the
name
ones
badge.
that are on the table here.
No,
We
could
could wear
just-
those, big chain.
years ago. Well, we had a badge.
Just make sure you don't have a
Badge.
Polish name.
I think they gave those up during the Base Village approval.
I will make sure.
when
you-
they didn't want to be known?
I'll have them for
Mhm.
you.
Or at least identify. the
Okay, that's
public.
perfect.
Yes, identified.
So I can throw mine out that's sitting in my drawer.
Wear it.
It says, I don't even know what it says, town council, I think. I don't, no, just make me one. And I lost all my business cards. I don't know what happened to them.
Oh, yeah, bring you all business cards.
I don't have any. Mine are all, I don't
forgot
know
about
what
that.
happened to them.
Do you need more, Mayor?
Maybe 10.
Do you still have some of those little business cards that say, contact the council? Yeah, if we have those, that would
So
be good.
then, that's,
Yeah, those are
that's
good.
We
plenty.
have them out at the ice cream thing?
Yeah,
I did. Did you have yours?
No, I feel like Travis had them there.
I had some.
Well,
Maybe
We
he
got
gave
it.
it- Okay, we got it.
We'll
Okay.
take care of you.
Great.
We'll see you there, Rhonda.
Yes.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Thanks for
It
organizing.
does show snow on my phone for Thursday, by the way. And one of the coldest, probably one of the last coldest nights we'll have,
Yeah.
single
That
single
clock does
digits.
okay with the door. I mean, it's inside.
Yeah, there's a double door.
No, I'm just, I dress the same every day anyway, doesn't matter to me.
Okay, next item on the agenda was
Joint meeting for.
joint meeting.
So basically, we did know that you wanted to invite all of the board members to come. I guess basically, we just want to know what kind of information we can pass on to the board liaison or the board that you might want to discuss. And then I'd like to know, when do you want to do these joint meetings? During a
Rhonda,
regular meeting or work session?
First of all, when you ask about what type of information we might want,
Or do you, what?
yeah, I'd be very interested. Well, let me ask this. I'm going to assume that every board has some goals and objectives.
that's fair. And
That's-
you know what? The planning commission is probably the one that they just follow they take
And
the
FAB,
applications in.
and FAB they have some, like when it
Yeah.
comes to budget, but they also go by what you give them, so
I'm
I'm sure
thinking
they all have
Saab probably
something.
has some objectives.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, they've got a whole plan,
Yeah.
strategic plan. EAB's got, yeah.
So that's what we should start with, and then for those, like the FAB, we could ask them what, if they see anything going on in town that they would like to, they think they ought to be involved in. I mean,
Okay, well,
I
why don't
kind of
we,
look at it as a, as a give and
why
take.
don't you give me the priority of what boards you would like to speak to first?
Well, we saw, we had the planning commission here a few weeks ago. We kind of know what they're doing, so maybe we don't, maybe
Well,
we
we
don't.
also see them on a regular council meeting schedule,
Yeah.
but maybe some of the other boards, maybe we need to
I'd like
put
to
them on
see
a work session.
marketing and tourism, because we just got the quarterly written report. I'd like that to be presented verbally and by
Would
the
you like them
board.
to be first?
Past direction from council has been written. in
Yeah, I know.
person, Written in person, so that's how they comply with their
Little
actual
requirement.
code requirements to report to you.
Well, we can request that
You can
quarterly.
change that. That's the council, a prior council's
No, it's this
decision.
council.
Huh? Well,
It says council. But why not,
started
why
long
not have them to start right there with a presentation and the quarterly? And then, because the only person we see is Rose, we don't see the board.
And,
Yeah, but-
and I'm assuming you guys don't care about the order so much, and then however we can get them, the board members here.
Okay, that
Was-
works.
Marky, at this point, though, I guess, other than having some questions about the marketing tourism report, I'd prefer not to have to go through it again, frankly. I mean, if I took the time to go through it, and hopefully my other co-counselors have taken the time to go through it, then let's ask our questions and then move on from there.
But not, you're saying just write the questions?
No, in
Yeah,
in
right,
face
yeah.
to face.
Well, the community, the reason why I think it should be during a regular, I think it needs to be live streamed. We're not live
Well,
streaming right
no,
now, right?
I'm
We are?
happy.
Okay.
So that raises the question of whether the meetings with these boards and commissions should be work sessions or or council meetings.
Well,
Okay. And
me being thinking that we were not being live streamed.
You are.
We
We are being live streamed, so a work session. Then it could be a work session with them.
I also, I like the idea of, if, you know, if there was 10 marketing people here on the board, I would like every one of them individually to, so we know who they are, introduce themselves. Then they don't have to say anything more than that. I'm so-and-so, and then the next person comes up. And every person that's streaming or the live streaming could see who actually is on the board.
Yep.
They have an
That's a
opportunity to
great
see.
That's a great idea.
do we,
Because at PTRAB, there was a new member there who was just, that we had just appointed, and I knew his face, but I couldn't think of his name. So,
Charlie Hess.
yeah, great guy. And he's gonna do a great job, but it'd be nice to have a name with and when people see members of those boards and commissions in the audience, or they watch them on TV, it'd be great to know who they are and what they do.
Right.
Yeah, and I think
think
the
that's a
most
very good
important
point,
thing with those boards is so that they feel like they are addressing something that's important to them and that we're hearing them, because it oftentimes will just stay within the board or the commission, and we have the staff is
The liaison.
or directing the meeting. So I think it would be really helpful to hear from them and make them feel like they are a part of the process, and they should be.
do we have any data on how many people watch our streaming work sessions and separately council meetings?
Well, we need people do.
Yeah,
It's
Mel
gotta
and
be
who
tens
else?
of people.
Mel, Erica, and Madeline.
That'll,
Yeah, right.
we know 3.
Yeah, I assume we do. I'm assuming we can get that, but I don't know that off the top of my head.
Because my, on one hand, I like the idea of doing it on a work session because it's a little more relaxed, and perhaps for boards and commission members who are not accustomed to
There's not-
being as public.
The
if you will.
formality's not there and all that
The
kind of stuff.
formality's not there. But on the other hand, I would like to get the exposure, I think to get the exposure of the boards and commissions as widely as, or as great as possible. It would be beneficial to interesting people in the community to maybe go on a board or a commission. So that's why, that's the basis for that, question.
I'm
So
aware.
the
Which
que-
one's, I'm sorry.
I'm
Which
sorry.
one's more popular? I mean, which one's watched more, a regular meeting or a workshop is kind of your evaluation?
Yeah, and how much the difference is, how different is it?
Yeah, I think Alyssa's right. It's what's on the agenda.
Yes.
Probably more in the.
I mean, if you have the Snowmass Center on the agenda, then everybody's gonna be watching.
Or here.
Right. Or here.
It's also difficult because we go out over the peg channels on cable on the regular meetings. but
Yeah, and not
the
on-
Sessions, so you can't track somebody what they're watching on their TV, but you can track what they're
But you
watching.
could also, I mean, if we were gonna do it in a work session, and let's say we were able to meet with like 2 different commissions or boards during that work session, you could put it in like the town rundown or something, or on our Facebook page saying, tune in to, learn more about the boards and commissions or something.
Yeah, we just have to publicize this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Back to thinking about just doing town council, I'm sure many of you are aware that there are certain meetings that we go off when Aspen has a
Goes
special
on.
meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, just saying.
Just saying.
Just saying.
I think it's better
I
to
like
do it
work
at a work
session.
session.
I like work session.
I think a work session is more conducive to having more
Yeah,
interaction.
totally agree.
More chill.
I just think we have so much on our agenda that the work session, I have it written down as a work session would be appropriate, because we just have so much on our agendas for regular
Right.
council meetings, and And these are informal and they are streamed.
Now, the Citizen Grant Review Board will be back in front of you probably the 1st of April, so you could,
And we have 2 members out that day.
the 1st
We
of April.
discussed that the last.
April 1st, I see Matson's
Oh,
out. and
I'm
so is-
sorry, when you said members, I thought you meant the Citizen Grant Review Board, I'm sorry.
But that's not an informal discussion, that's them coming to make a
To report.
recommendation on council action. And so that would be, that's a good example of, they show up, they make a recommendation, you
Yeah.
guys act on it. Beyond that, there's not a lot of goals and objectives, so that would be up to you guys. If you want, you might want to talk to them about, hey, here's things we want to focus on in the future as far as funding goes, and it would be you guys helping them set that prioritization.
Well, they may have some ideas about how to better improve the process.
Right, but I guess my
Yeah,
point is,
yeah.
that would be a different meeting
Yeah.
than this April
Yeah.
1st, like.
No, I was just saying we could maybe combine it if, but there's 2 out, so.
That was a good point, but I think it's separate.
One of the questions that I jotted down was, I thought would be interesting to ask each board what they feel their challenges are.
Good point.
And we may find out we're a challenge. But that's why we're having the meetings.
Or what their barriers are.
Yeah, or what the
What
barriers
what are
are.
your perceived barriers to being successful?
They want to build a wall between Snowmass and Aspen. And Aspen's paying for it.
We've been discussing that lately. Yeah, but our ambassador meetings, we've thought it was a good idea to just build a wall around Snowmass, keep everybody out. Icon pass holders, people from Aspen.
I think it's too late.
No, I think the most important things to get, information that you want to glean is like, do they feel that they have enough directive? Do they feel like whoever the staff liaison is that they're working with, how that's going, how they feel like our relationship is, their relationship is with us and the community, and are there things that they need to be more successful?
And this is, I mean, I'm assuming it would just be an invitation, and we'd let them know, hey, here's some questions and conversations.
Right.
And you guys would just host it like a conversation. There's
Right.
not-
That's right.
And don't come in with a whole report.
Don't come in with a
Right.
PowerPoint or anything like that. It's like,
It's
here's
more
some
of like, let's
ideas.
get to know you. How do you feel like it's going? Like, do you have any feedback? What could we do differently?
And maybe a one slider, hey, here's 5 things we're working on.
Right.
Just so you
Yeah.
know that. But then after that,
Right.
conversation from there.
It's a conversation.
Right.
Okey dokey.
So you don't want to do one on April 1st? No, April,
Do we want to,
April
give,
8th.
Well, April
If you wanna
1st, we
give
only have,
Rhonda-
3 council people here.
yeah.
Do we wanna
then
give
that's not a
Rhonda-
work session.
Well, work
rough
set,
idea of what, which ones we would like to see sooner than later, or?
I feel like, I mean, are there any that are comprised of a lot of people that aren't here year round and maybe they're here now?
well, P-TRAB.
Well, and Saab.
So, I mean, maybe you try to hit the one, I mean, you know that most people on planning commission are people that are here all the time because
Yeah.
they need to, they need to
That's
be.
true.
Maybe try to hit anyone that might be leaving before the end of the ski season. It
Well,
wouldn't be
that
available.
narrows it down to,
April 8th.
and at that point, many of them may be gone by then already.
Well, the mountain is
Uh,
open
yeah,
till the
yeah.
21st.
Is
I
this-
don't know.
Is it staying open later? than
It
when-
stays open till Easter, and Easter is the 21st.
Easter
Well, I
is-
knew it was 21st, but I was
Yes.
thinking with the snow, they might keep it open.
Oh, no, I don't think so. I don't, not
Well, they might
Snowmass.
keep, if they keep it up, they might keep Aspen Mountain open for a few
Or
weekends or
Highlands, but
something.
not Snowmass, not Buttermilk.
The Snowmass won't be open.
It's too much manpower. We're too big.
If, understanding kind of what Alyssa was just saying about trying to get folks, and if there's not a high, if you guys don't care too much about the order, we can work with the liaisons and figure out who we can get here. I mean, the marketing board's 9
Okay.
people and EAB's less. I mean, we can do a little
Okay.
homework and see how we can get them.
So by the way, do we want the boards here with the staff?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Right, so the marketing
really
board
want-
as well with
Yeah,
the
because
staff.
we really want to be talking to the board.
Right.
Right.
and we'll aim for work sessions, and depending on, we'll get one, or what the rest of the agenda looks like, we'll try to get one or maybe even two boards per work session, and we can work through it.
I also would like to have the Department of, Ann's department, even though there's no board there for Public Works, I'd like to have them invited to one of our council meetings. And I know a lot of them live down Valley and stuff,
work
but
session.
maybe as a work session, or maybe we could even start earlier for them, because a lot of them are leaving to go down Valley. They don't want to get stuck in the Congo line, but I'd also like to include the Department of Public Works somewhere along the line in one of our work sessions, whether it's summertime or whatever it is, since the days are long, just so they can come in and let them know that we care about them. Let's meet these people. I don't think a lot of people know these people.
Well, that's different. I mean, so if we're gonna get staff invite, that's different.
I understand that, but this is what I was saying, that we don't have a board for Public Works.
Or transportation,
Or
or
transportation,
housing,
so
or those kinds of
I'd
things.
like to incorporate some of these staff people, just so they know that we're connected with them.
Well, then if that be the case, then we ought to go to their department versus asking them to come here.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, whatever the procedure would be, it's just a
I've got it.
suggestion.
I'm just saying I can set it up however you'd like.
Yeah.
But the boards and commissions will get here at a work session, and if you wanna set up, we can set up times where you guys can go to.
That could be another time of year, of course, I'm just saying.
Or go to them, and if they've got staff meetings or whatever, I know they have staff meetings, but we can set that up and just a hello, and how's it going?
I'm just following up on, I called it my backstage tour years ago, and I really enjoyed it, and meeting all the different people and they were just flattered that a council person was coming around to meet them.
Okay.
So not necessarily me, but they were actually saying that in all the years they've worked there, no one really came to them. I caught them at a couple of different times where I brought donuts over to, I knew they had a meeting, and I bought a bunch of donuts, said hi, and left. But anyway, I think they like to be connected to what's going on in town, and I think they feel they're a little separated sometimes.
Should we get a list of when staff meetings are? I mean, can we sit in on any of those, or do you care?
I don't care, no, I mean, it's just, I'd wanna make sure that you guys are the bosses, and so they're gonna want a heads up that the bosses are showing up. If you just popped in, I think that might be a little
Think that's intimidating?
bit.
Very
I
much
mean,
so.
if you show up as 5 of you guys, like, hey, what's going on? Yeah,
Okay.
I do.
And that would have to be noticed.
With that too. But I mean, if what you're looking for is kind of a broader, what'd you call it, a backstage tour, we can set that up easy. And if you wanted to do it one-offs, like you kind of did, you divide it individually, that's even easier. So it's just kind of a matter if you want to tell me as a group or individuals.
It's something we could discuss. I know it's.
Maybe in your weekly report, maybe you could just put a list of what's coming up next week, and we could just respond and say, hey, could I join you for this meeting? And if we'll keep it to under 3 of us.
For the staff meetings. I mean, I don't even go to everybody's staff meetings, so I'd have to find out.
That's the first thing they're gonna say. Clint never comes.
That's exactly, I'm gonna say, thank God Clinton never comes.
Well, I'm sure your directors don't want you at all the staff meetings, sorry.
You're exactly right, and that's why I
They
don't go.
don't, it's very intimidating.
And that's why I don't go. Let
And
them
you
do
all
their
don't
job.
think you'll be intimidating when you walk in?
Not us.
Okay.
You walk in with a box of donuts, ease the pain.
Okay. Anything else we need to discuss tonight, other than perhaps when we're gonna put the post office on the agenda?
Well, you wanna talk about it tonight a little bit, or, I mean,
Well,
Yeah.
if we're gonna put it on the agenda, because I brought up a P-TRAB, we would put it on a future agenda of town council. So
Okay.
we get a plan on how we're going to work with the federal
Oh.
government or what have you,
Do
the
you
post office.
all wanna know what I found out this week?
I would,
Yeah, I'm really interested in it.
Okay, so let me
and
pull
I'll
up
pass on some information as
so
well.
let me pull this on, I'll pull this up here.
I'll pass along some information. I got a package that was shipped December 12th last week. I mean, I'm sure you guys have all had these experiences, but it's just like,
Yeah, so,
That's tons of anecdotes that way,
yeah.
towns coming in.
People who are waiting
So-
on medicine, I mean,
I,
you can't have that.
so a friend ended up calling Washington last week.
Fran?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know the friend.
I know, yeah.
Bob has lots of friends.
And got put in touch with the senior operating manager in Grand Junction, whose name is Michael King. And I understand he was here last week, or at least somebody thinks he was here last week. But he, because of his position, I would think he would be an appropriate person
To invite.
to invite,
Mhm.
to talk with. And I think he'd be an appropriate person for the community to contact via email. And his michael.r.king@usps.gov. And maybe
This
we
poor
can.
man.
Hmm?
He's about to get slaughtered on email.
Well, sometimes that's what it takes.
Right.
Sometimes
I
it
agree.
takes the wheel to be greased before it moves, and it certainly, it hasn't been moving very well. So, I thought I had, oh, here it is. Then I have a phone number for a gentleman, I believe it's a gentleman, in Washington in Consumer Affairs for the post office. And that number is 303-853-6185.
And what's the name?
The name is M. Porreco, Porreco. So, again,
That's an interesting area code to have in DC.
That's Denver.
Yeah, that's a Denver.
oh, that's a
area.
Denver, oh, that's his,
Yeah,
he's in Denver, or she's in Denver. Yep,
What was it, 303-853?
6185.
So, am I interrupting you? Are you finished?
No, I mean, this came back as I will say this, this came back from this, Mr. or Ms. Pareco, a nice email, regretfully hearing this, problem and understanding the frustration, blah, 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 but really saying nothing beyond
Of course.
that.
Question is, what are the issues of why we can't be successful?
Right.
So one reason, okay, a couple of things. As a matter of fact, I got a phone call today and somebody interviewed me, but at any rate, if you think about the town,
Erica, she tried to interview me.
you think about the town when the center was commissioned, 81 to 83. There were really only, luckily, not even 1,000 people using the post office at that time. And I don't know how many boxes there actually are down there, but at any rate, the same square footage now is what we had back then. Actually, some of the square footage for the post office where they kept the packages was moved, and the extra boxes along the outside wall were
Yep,
put in,
yep.
extra post office boxes were put in. But before that, we all went to Aspen to get our mail. We didn't know any difference, right? And we didn't have a choice. We didn't have an opportunity to get mail delivered. But now, if you think back when the signs were the elevation, the population, the day it was established, everything was around 1,100 to 1,200 when all those numbers put together. Now, if you look at the combination, we now have over 2,000 registered voters that are all getting post office boxes down there. Not only that, everybody that comes from a different country that's working for the ski company or wherever they're working, there's no reason to not let them be in touch with their homeland when it comes to general delivery or whatever. There's a list of over 200 to 100 to 200 people that are waiting for post office boxes. That'll never happen in our Snowmass Village post office. And not only that, if you fall to the fate of general delivery, you'd be lucky if you get a letter from your homeland or wherever that may be coming from, let alone a package or parcel. And we've all seen what happens in there during the high season, and it's been going on for years. I think the bottom line is, there's two bottom lines. Number one, more space is available. And we were told during the last presentation, there will not be any more square footage.
Can't talk about it.
That's,
Right, you can't talk about
we
it.
can't talk about
I
that.
can't
but
talk about that,
But that
but-
is not, that's not the story.
Okay, but that's just one point. The second point is, as I had asked Clint, if there was some way that we were to take local people, young people who are gonna work at the stuff, because right now, people coming from Aspen or Down Valley, coming to work in the Snowmass Post Office. We don't have regular people.
Well, and people get pulled from here to go work in Aspen.
And people get pulled from Aspen to
There
come
was
to
only
work
like
here.
one person in there working last week. But the Postal Service, US Postal Service, has a certain size square footage for any US post office. And it depends on the population density that there is a whole department on the size a post office can be. That information was requested a long time ago. So what we heard may not be the whole truth. So they
Well-
have been trying to work, my understanding is they've asked, and this was announced at P-TRAP, because Jordan
is
Sarek was
true.
saying there, they have not sent it to him yet, and he's asked and asked and asked on what that square footage is. So I don't know if that's.
No, again, I know we can't talk about it, and I
Well,
made that clear.
I think the other thing too that you have to think about is that unlike even just a couple of years ago, people are shopping more and more online and using things like Amazon.
Amazon Prime.
And those things are coming to the post office and creating,
Oh, I,
Well,
mass
they're taking up
packages.
space.
they're taking up space.
I understand that contract is up, though, in this next year, and that's gonna be, that may be revisited. Because that's, yeah, I
That is
totally agree
causing
with
a
you,
big
that's
problem.
causing a big problem, because FedEx and UPS are just dropping off at the post office.
Right.
But the most ridiculous thing, and this has happened to me the last 2 weeks, is I've had things that were dated from December that show up in my box and they have this yellow thing that at the bottom that says not deliverable.
Yeah.
And then I go and I ask Jim and he's like, it's because there's all these random people working here. And even though it was addressed perfectly correctly with my name and P.O. box and everything, they were just tossing it in piles because they didn't want to take the time to do it.
There's multiple stories of that,
Right.
multiple stories.
And it's ridiculous.
Bill, I wonder on these, contracts with the Amazons of the world, whether they're negotiated in Washington or local. I doubt they're negotiated locally.
Yeah.
So the fact that that our post office is having issues with volume on those, because of those things, I don't think is gonna make any difference in the negotiation on those contracts.
But I think it's clogging up the postal service across the country, so I think that,
Well, that would be good.
Well, they've got that cheaper option, the Sure Post or Safe Post, depending on which one you use. Smart Post.
so I guess the question is there anything we can do about it locally? I mean, should we have a goal to build a new post office? I mean, should that be in our entryway?
Well, that may be a goal, but the US government's gotta have control of it.
Well, I mean, that's why I'm bringing it up. I mean, what are our limitations and what can we do?
I really think we need facts, and I'd love to get that guy from Grand Junction here to start with.
But I think in the meantime, maybe just to like mitigate the community, that maybe we just need to get something out, that says, yes, we are aware, and yes, we are, trying to make inroads with the federal government to deal with it. Because I just feel like people are like, it's constantly the same thing. I mean, on a daily basis. The emails when you see people and people are so frustrated. And just be like, not just like, hey, we're aware. Yes, we are aware. We are working on it. And,
Yeah, and my only concern is I don't want to give false hope, because there's a lot of things we can control and say, this is what we're doing, whatever.
well, we're not making promises that we can fix it, but that we are aware. Because the thing is that people are blaming it on us, whether we want them to or not. I mean, it's just how it goes. People don't look at, oh, that's the federal government. Oh, that's the local government.
Oh, I don't know if they look to us for hope and solutions. I did not experience any blame at PTRAB, and there were a lot of conversation about it. What I found was they looked to town council to help solve the
Solve the
community
problem.
problem. So the question is facts, and if we could get the guy from Grand Junction to come, what are the problems here? Anecdotal?
You know, Mr. King, and, draft something that comes from the council, and comes from all of us, and, requesting his, he come and talk with us about our problems.
Well, that's where I was gonna go with this, is we need to get him up here. He needs to have an invitation.
Yeah,
He needs to know that the concerns from our citizens are A, B, C, and D, factual information. But for him to be a complaint line that everybody's calling is not gonna be beneficial, because then he won't answer his phone. The best thing to do.
well, we don't have a phone number for him. I
No,
mean, that
but
guy-
even an email flood, you immune to them and you erase. If you get 2,000, I'm sorry, it's just, it's not tolerable. So if we could have I would like to have a summation of what the issues, that we perceive are the issues, and then he address each issue as how they plan on solving it.
Okay, so should we work with staff to create that list?
Yep. I'll send you all the complaints. And they're
Well, I
they're
mean,
common. They're
honestly,
very,
I think we know the issues. If the five of us sat around the room with Clint, we know the issues. We've heard all the stories. It's the same story over and over again. So I don't think the issues are,
well, I don't know if it's staffing, I don't know if it's pay, I don't know if it's housing, or it's
No,
multiple.
but the issues from our perspective are, the mail doesn't get put in boxes every day.
Yeah, I know that.
But that's what he needs to hear.
Well,
Because, and then he has to tell us if the issue is housing or pay or scheduling or whatever.
or this is how I would perceive the issues coming from our community. You can have the complaints, blah, 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 you're not getting your mail on a timely basis. The perception is there is issues with housing, pay, size of the post office, quite frankly, the cleanliness of the post office. And sir, when you come, we'd like you to validate if those are issues or if there's additional issues, and the question is, how can we help solve the problem? Let's work together on a solution.
Okay.
Your last sentence is probably one of the most important. How can we help you make this better?
If it's housing, you had the solution
Right.
last week.
Right, and then the other part of it is, the issues, we all know what the issues are. It's just like Bob was saying.
Yeah, we do.
I think it's just a matter of, we probably just can't have 150 or 75 people coming up here bitching at one man that winds up being,
Well, it wouldn't be a public hearing. Wouldn't be a public hearing.
Yes, it would.
All we have to do is announce that somebody from the post office is
Yeah.
gonna be here.
Well, the public can come, but meaning that it's a discussion with because if it were a public hearing, I agree with Tom, the guy's gonna get beat to death.
Well, I will tell you, it's gotta be done in a controlled environment. We've experienced, I don't think Clint was here or any of John and I took a beating on Krablunik with all the comments, way back when. So you gotta know how to control it.
Our room is not big enough to have them. We need to set up the Weston or something. The whole community's gonna wind up being there, because it's an issue that everybody feels in the community, and,
Well, I totally agree with you. I think we need to start with the invitation to
We
the
need,
Yeah.
and that's the starting point, and I agree. It's just a matter of, if we could get somebody that's in control, that, not necessarily in control, that can control somewhat, because whoever we get is not gonna be the answer to the answer. They're just going to listen to everything and pass the information along. Because there's people that I've involved in Denver who have no idea, first of all, even where Snowmass Village is, or let alone even know there was a problem going on,
That's very true.
okay? So the man in Grand Junction may not have anything to do with it. So how do we find the right person? And once that person gets beat up here, he's gonna disappear, and Christmas will be here again, and we got the same problems again all
Well,
over
let's
again.
not assume we're gonna beat the person up. Let's approach it very differently.
I think we should mug him before he gets in.
Let's just put it, make it an agenda item, invite
Yes.
the guy up, and
Yeah.
figure out what the next steps are.
Talk to the local postmaster first?
I don't think that's the answer, because,
I mean, I think the direction should be to staff, let's get the right people here to start making some decisions.
I think to answer Rhonda's question, I think that person could be contacted, but I think
And,
we need
you
to
know,
go
the
beyond them.
The postmistress can be invited to
Right.
the same meeting.
Sure.
Okay, do we have enough discussion on this one?
Yeah.
Michael.r.king@usps.gov.
That poor man. It's like inciting a
Clint, do
riot.
you need any other direction?
We'll go down this path for sure. Very likely, if Mr. King is the right person, I'll try and contact him and get him offline and then see what the best approach is, because usually he can say, well, don't do that, do this, or something along those lines, and we can see what we can find out.
And it'd be nice if you could find out who his boss is and what the pecking order is.
You got further than I got. I was
Yeah.
looking all over for a name, and if,
I know, it's not easy.
I'll start here.
Well, thank you very, very much. And thank you for your work on the strategic initiatives and the goals, and it was a good session. Anything else? See you Thursday.
See you Thursday.
What's Thursday? I'm just kidding.
What's Thursday?
You should invite the postman to pray.
I'm sure he'll love that.
I'd be buying them the drinks.
Let's invite the postmistress.
The ski day,
I buy her
Bring it
drinks.
on.
I'll pray.
That's right.
I'd be buying her drinks.
I think we all would.